Hello, welcome to my channel, Another Bibliophile Reads. My name is Greg, and September is over, and so is my caseload of reading detective fiction for Dicktember. So what detective novels have I read? Because that is the purpose of Dicktember, is to read detective novels. The first one I read is a bit unusual. It is The Yiddish Policemen's Union by Michael Chabon. And this is a novel that crosses a lot of genres. Michael Chabon is mostly known as a literary writer, but the Yiddish Policemen's Union is also a work of alternative history, science fiction, and it is also a detective novel. And this is set in Sitka, Alaska, but not the Sitka that people know nowadays. In the 30s, there was legislation for the US government to allow Jewish immigrants to come and stay in Sitka. That bill was killed, and that never happened in reality. But Michael Chabon created this alternative history where 4 million Jews were taken from Europe and resettled in Sitka. So there were only 2 million executed by the Nazis. However, this law had a sunset clause, and now all the Jews that have been living in Sitka for many years and have started families and have grown old are now losing their special status as residents. And they're supposed to clear out, and no one really knows what they're supposed to do. Now, the main character in this book is Meyer Landsman. He is a divorced Jewish police officer living in Sitka, and he's staying in a flea bag motel. And one night, the night manager knocks on his door and tells him that one of the residents has been murdered. And Landsman investigates, and yes, indeed, a heroin addict has been shot in the back of the head. And in this room with the dead heroin addict is a very complicated chess problem. In his youth, Landsman studied chess quite extensively. His father wanted him to be one of the world champions of chess playing. That didn't work out. But Landsman recognized that this chess problem was not normal. Also in this book, the reader will learn about some of the more esoteric beliefs of the Jewish religion. And these all tie together when the detective starts investigating the case. And I can highly recommend The Yiddish Policemen's Union by Michael Chabon. The next one I read, I have already done a video review of, so I will just show it here. And this is a new edition. When I did my review before, I was holding up a library copy of The Way Some People Die. But I splurged, and now I own the Library of America edition in the 3-volume boxed set. It was impressive enough for me to go out and buy that set because I want to continue with Lou Archer and his detecting in Los Angeles. The next one I read was a piece of British detective fiction. This comes from the Factory series by Derek Raymond, and is How the Dead Live. And it features his nameless detective from his other novels. But in this story, he is taken outside of his normal venue in London and taken to the British countryside to a huge mansion that is falling apart, and an older gentleman lives there. But his wife has disappeared. She used to be a great beauty in town, known for her fabulous singing. But before she disappeared, she started wearing a veil, and she lost her voice, and she could only talk in a whisper. And the factory detective must solve this case about what happened to this woman. Now, people familiar with Derek Raymond knows that he goes into some very unusual storylines. And this has an unusual storyline when you learn about the man's wife. I don't think this is my favorite of the factory novels. I liked the other two that I read a little bit better. But if you're into Derek Raymond and the factory, you're going to definitely want to pick up this book and see what happened to the man's wife in this dilapidated mansion. Of course, I had to read Raymond Chandler for Dicktember. And the one that I read was The Lady in the Lake. And Marlowe is hired by a man to find his wife. He knows his wife ran off with another man about a month ago, and he's really not all that upset that she ran off. But things start occurring that cause him to think that maybe she didn't run off after all. So Raymond Chandler starts investigating. And he goes to a basically isolated cabin outside of Los Angeles where the woman was staying. And there was another woman staying in this town by this lake. And she has also disappeared. But no, she hasn't disappeared. Her body has been found floating in the lake after being dead for a month. And from there, things start happening. Bodies start turning up. People start taking out their guns and threatening Marlowe. It's a good mystery. It has a good resolution that I enjoyed. Not my favorite Marlowe, but a definite must for anyone who's reading Raymond Chandler. Lastly, maybe a stretcher for detective fiction. And this is Nick Carter, The Killmaster. The story is The Mind Poisoners. Now, Nick Carter is a special agent, but he has been put undercover as a college professor to discover why college students are going wild. So he is investigating criminal activity. But what is that criminal activity? These students gone wild, wild orgies, sexual assault, riots. It has all this mid-60s paranoia about youth. And of course, there's going to be mind poisoners that are getting to the youth of America. Well, that is the end of the detective books that I read this month. Thank you for watching. Keep on reading.